welcome back once again to the Bayou City Soccer podcast with the Orange and Blueprints edition. We're once back in here recapping another week with a dash, another interesting week. I think an interesting week of all dash news, but you know, I always wear a dash kit, but this is different from my part. It's the Inter Milan. I think you was the question why, but I think now if you see my co-host Diego, you understand why. What you got there, Diego?
I got the far nicer kit. The 5-time Conca champions, and there is no dispute of how great they are in the women's game, which we'll talk about later in this episode. But I'm happy to be here, happy to help host another Orange and Blueprints episode. And yeah, Manny, I mean, not everyone has to be on the winning side, and I know I'm talking so much smack for a draw, but it's okay. It's okay. Let me have this moment. The last time I was this happy with our style of play was against Liverpool in 2019. So I'm just gonna enjoy this.
But I was laughing with my wife when I was watching that game. I was like, because the coach of freaking Rayados is basically the guy from Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, Vin Diesel.
Dominic Toretto. That's literally his name.
Yeah, Vin Diesel, Dominic Toretto, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, look off, family.
Basically, that was the Rayados play of yesterday, just family. We got to do this for family.
Yeah, no, 110%, 110%.
Nah, it was a good game, one draw. At least we didn't wear my LAFC jersey with your Chelsea jersey.
I'm gonna be so for real though. I was really happy with the result, especially considering how well LAFC actually played.
Yeah, it was actually pretty good. It was actually a pretty good game.
This is a great game. Yeah.
I don't know if it's how good LAFC is or how bad Maresca has their team, but it is.
Yeah, it's true.
It is what it is, but it's good to see a lot of soccer here in the States. You know, as we mentioned, the Club World Cup, then the Gold Cup. I know Rudy mentioned a little bit about it yesterday. I know they're planning the coverage this way, but we just want to focus on the NWSL with the dash. Sadly, this past weekend it was another loss at home, but against a good San Diego website. I'm not gonna lie, it's a good San Diego website. Let's recap it real quick for everyone. It was a 3-2 loss. The first half was very, very one-sided. I think Rudy was mentioning it before. I think the number 10, Akanza Denali, actually ran the whole game. For the San Diego, and reason why the San Diego got the majority of the possession and attacking on the ball. And then, of course, you have Denali scored the 17th minute. Then you have Adriana Leon, who's a veteran in this side, scored again in the 36th minute. And they would cut the villain of the game, María Sánchez, scoring a header, which is ironically funny because she scored more headers than Diana Ordonez. I'll stop there, but that was pretty much it. But then out of nowhere, in the second half, within the span of 7 minutes, a banger from Barrio Oliveri outside the box, no chill celebration, and with a Messi goal-ish from Yasmin Ryan. You know, the one that she runs through the whole defense, the whole midfielder, gets through everyone, and boom, she slots it in. Really, a great goal. I think ESPN FC had her, I think, number 3 on the goal charts for the week. So me and Diego were there at that game. We were crying on the side, but I want you to get to know your thoughts, Diego, of the game.
I mean, I thought it was honestly, as you mentioned, a tale of two halves. I feel like the Dash, this is probably their worst half of football that I've seen this season. They were disorganized. They were slow. They were kind of a touch behind whenever they were facing that San Diego team. Adriana Leon, I understand she's a presence. I know they have like a lot of weapons on that San Diego team, but some of those plays that they were making, I felt like the level that the Dash have been playing at, this would be considered an unacceptable half of play. But then, like we saw the mentality shift. We saw that switch, after the first 45, and I really noticed a different change beneath the surface when it came to this Dash 11. I felt like Barb got the start, continued to play. This was one of her full games, full I don't remember specifically if she played the full 90, but she played close to it, and she was one of the better players in that 90 stretch. So, I mean, she definitely showed it with her top class finish outside of the box. But besides that, being a presence, dribbling the ball effectively, using skill, but also technicality to get past defenders. And then, I mean, that segues perfectly to the Yasmin Ryan goal, which you mentioned it was Messi-esque, but I think only a player like really Yaz can do it the way that she does, both displaying the physicality in order to wrestle away from the defender and then to cut it inside with finesse in order to get it past the goalkeeper. I think few players have that physicality, but also that finesse to kind of create a goal like that. And I think Yaz is finally really displaying what we brought her here to do, which is control and dictate the offense, but also to score goals. And yes, not every goal is going to be like that. And I think we were very lucky to get two absolute beauties. But it kind of shows that step ahead whenever we're talking about that belief within the group. I mean, there was an identity being shown. There was a grit. There was a hustle being played. I mean, we were talking about it before the show about Fabrice's tactics, whether they're present at all or whatever that fact. But I felt like at least the identity part of it is getting cemented, which is really important when you are facing off against an Orlando side, when you're playing against a San Diego side. And yes, you get 0 points out of those two games, but look at the performances. You can see beneath the stats that there's significant progress being made. That way, Dash fans can look at this instead of saying, "Oh, we lost 3-2," and say, "Hey, there's something there for us to really gain something out of it." Because I mean, looking at how we are now versus last year, which I mean, very very bottom of the barrel, I think it's important for us to reflect halfway through the season of like, this is not the same Dash team that we're talking about. This is a Dash team that, despite the losses against very tough teams, we're providing an identity that we're playing, and we're not far behind in the playoff line. So, I mean, yes, are we not helping ourselves with these late stupid goals conceded, especially the Orlando one, but also the Leon goal and other finishes throughout that game? Yes, but I think it's understanding it within the context of we are 1 year removed from being the worst team in the NWSL. I think that'll give a lot of clarity and hope for Dash fans.
Yeah, I think I think it was. I think it's a tough pill to swallow. I think what Dash fans will most likely remember, despite the 3-2 loss. I think how dominant and how frail the Dash were in the first half. You know,
Hmm.
I think it was just very eye opening. I think as well it doesn't it's hard to when I mentioned Kansas Denali was very very um attacking on it, very on the set. But also, I think what with the dash they great credit on is the containing uh, Delphine Cascarino. I think she had moments, but she wasn't very effective in the game. I think that's a credit for the dash. But even though she wasn't effective per se, she still was really dangerous for the team and for against the dash. I think it's just very frustrating. I think if you're a Dash fan to see how much how much will it take for this team to from the offset to get it going.
Hmm.
It always needs us to go behind to get us going, and it's like you kind of want to stop the bleeding before it happens. And and sometimes it's I think when you're watching it, it's like a what else do this team needs to get their A game off the bat? Because I feel like we always ask the same question, like the mentality. It's like it takes us either late in the game to get in, or it takes us to get a big whooping before we get back in the game. But I think from your end, what does this team need, or what does it lack for us to get on the game in the beginning?
I would say I'm gonna be like, if I can pinpoint something, I feel like we need reinforcements in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Preferably a number nine would be great. This was one of Yaz's better games because she didn't necessarily have the pressure of being the central number nine for most of the game. If you
Yeah.
looked at her best chances, it was through the wing, and she. I feel like if we get an experienced number nine, then and I feel like that will alleviate a lot of that central pressure for her, and create a lot of freedom for her to really take that wing and make it her own. But
Mm-hmm.
I also think consistency is something that we really need to focus on when it comes to this dash side. This was going to be a question that I was going to forward to you, but this is the third game in which we've seen Maggie Graham, which is typically a midfielder and maybe an attacking midfielder, but play a fullback position under Fabrice Catrat. And I asked him in the press conference, and he commented that it was due to availability because of Avery Patterson, and all of that. However, I was kind of seeking a better answer in
Mm-hmm.
the way of, like, this doesn't necessarily this is filling the holes of a sinking ship with duct tape.
Yeah.
So Manny, I like when you see those decisions by Fabrice, and he comments things like Maggie Graham is in our best 11, so it's only about where we're going to play her. Does that worry you about like the tactical element that Fabrice wants to play, or does it? Do you have confidence in his lineups and in his tactical changes?
I don't think it's I question his tactical or positional players. I just feel bad for him for his depth of players. If
Hmm.
he has to put Maggie Graham in that position as a defender, it's because either whatever he has on the bench isn't good enough. For instance, he puts Maggie Graham in defense instead of Westfall, instead of Ali Chapman, who has been injured, but she will be the number one, you know, on your mind. And of course, you have as well players like Zoe Matthews, who's maybe not the best fit because of her experience. She's still 18 years old, barely 18 years old. So that won't be the best one. Of course, you don't want to put players like Puttingham or Schmidt out in the wing in that position. So basically, Westfall is the only player that will go there. But of course, I think Febreze is like, why do I put Westfall? Maybe will not give me the same production as I will say a Maggie Graham, that it can be a clinical finisher in the front. We can't forget that Maggie Graham right now is a top leading goal scorer in this team. With 3 goals. That's pretty sad, but it is true. So
My biggest thing with that though is we've seen time and time again how Fabrice has commented that this is arguably the deepest lineup that the Dash has seen in years, and yet we're having a conversation about our lack of depth. I don't understand it. I feel like
I I think I
there's
think
disconnect there. I don't know.
No, I think he is true on some parts. I think if you look at I think if you're looking at your position players, for instance, if you look at Calaprico and Sheehan, you're not moving those two, because but if they're gone, who replaces them? You replace, of course, you might put Maggie Graham in there, or you might put Sophie Schmidt, or you might put Sarah Putigam, who players are still great in their merits. Maybe Sophie Schmidt cannot give you the 90 minutes. Maybe that's why
Mhm.
he hasn't put there. But Sarah Putigam still captain for her Austria team. So a good player, and she has come off the bench a couple of times, but maybe not a player that I think, because of the performance that Calaprico and she had in their connection, it's hard for them to be dropped. But I think in that position as that well, I think the positions that like I will question that depth is forward and defense, because if you
Mhm.
go, if you as you see, if Patterson's gone, that leaves a whole gap. That leaves a whole gap. But of course, if for instance, if Jacobs, Lynn, and Nielsen are gone, who do you replace? Who do you replace then? That's very, very. Of course, you could put Westfall. Westfall has done well, but is she outstanding? Not really, but she has done well. But other than Westfall, who are you gonna put in the defense? You're gonna put the same two people I mentioned, Sarah Putigam and Sophie Schmidt in the center back if Westfall is already there. So it's like
Mhm.
you do lack of some sort of cohesion, and you do have depth, as in I think in defense and the center mid is pretty locked. It's like
Mhm.
okay, but other than that, it's like you forward is like ever since we gave Messiah Bright the new contract, it's like she automatically got benched, you know. And so like she has been coming off the bench more than she started, but it's pretty hard to know what to do from there. It's I think we need another Ivy Patterson player. Kiki has started this last game and she has done well. Maybe not to a full extent, but she has done well. And of course, you also have another player, Evelyn Dujan, who's out on injury. So it's pretty hard to have depth and then players being out for injured. But
Mhm.
I think for me, that's glaring is the defense and the forward line that needs more help.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I feel like with the injuries, I don't know if we've seen this Dash team at their full strength yet, which I mean, that's a lot coming from a team that has had some pretty questionable results. But like a big question for you, since we're halfway through his first season with the Dash, are you bought on to the Fabrice project when it comes to the identity that the Dash want to play, the tactical style that they want to play, the types of players that he's bringing on? Like we've seen halfway through the season, we kind of know how this team wants to play, healthy or not. We kind of see like the identity that they want to be. Are you buying into the Fabrice Trap project?
Yes and no. Yes, I think there's early in the season they had good results, and there's some like I think despite the loss in Orlando, I think that was a really great result. I'm not gonna lie, I thought we were gonna get whooped, but they happened to just leave with a last minute winner, 94th minute, you know, and in games like this, with like you said, we need to just keep the mentality, have a good striker or something from the forward line to get going, because I feel like losing 3-0 and 52 minutes in the game, you thought the game was done because nothing came
Mhm.
out of this, but the Dash came back, came strong. It came strong. So, uh, and it was really, really interesting because I think like you say, previous Dash teams after 3-0, that's it. That's it. They won't come
Mhm.
back. I think the game's done. The game's done. So I think the problem is that I do believe him. The problem is that he doesn't have the players for his system. He's still
Mhm.
working. If you think about, even though last offseason was a good off season for, uh, I think get rid of players. We still
Mhm.
have a lot of players in this team that needs to get moved. They needs to be moved. Still a lot. That's still a lot. I think Ryan Garris had a good start in the season, but has become like I sometimes I forget she's playing. I'm not. I'm not. I'm just pretty. I'm completely honest.
Mhm.
I forget she's playing, and but the reason is like she works in the system because she's the only player that can fit in that system on the other opposite side of Avery Patterson. So like
Mhm.
it's very hard. You can't put Michelle Losey there because she doesn't do half the work rate, or she only has speed but doesn't know how to defend well enough for Fabrice to consider to put her there. So it's
Mhm.
very interesting. I think some of that, and I think I Michelle's one of the players that I think we might start to consider, or Belle Breed, who's been on the bench for most of the year. Uh, so what are we gonna do with her? And then I think a lot of questions rides on Sarah Putigam and Sophie Schmidt. Uh, is it time for the Dash to move on with them because they're barely getting used, mostly small minutes here and there. Of course, and then you have Zoe Matthews and all these other players, Ali Chapman, who's still on your roster, but she's injured. She's not on the IL or on the season injury list, so she still takes up a cap space. So I think for Breeze needs a big summer window, this summer window, to get
Mm-hmm.
something done, to get something done, to move a lot of pieces, waive a lot of players, and bring in players as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's if anything can be done, it'll be during this summer window, and it's going to be really interesting. I know a lot of teams already. Angel City FC had Spurge a lot of attacking power this season, and they have a good forward line, and it's still spurging. So we need to see transfers being done, for that sooner because the summer transfer window opens up at the end of the month. We only have a month and a half for it to start, and
Mm-hmm.
it's perfect time to get them before the summer for before league play comes back on mid-August.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean this. I think now that we're talking a little bit about the break and the transfer window, and I mean I feel like there's a lot of conversations that we had last week about this, and unfortunately with the timing, it got revealed literally the day after that we aired. But the Dash are going to be playing a would you call it a mid-season friendly? Uh,
I think it's preseason for them, and mid-season for us.
a
So
pre-mid-season friendly against my very own Club de Football Rayadas, and I got a little jumped the gun a little with that one, but I was really excited to say it because they're my team, and
mhm.
yeah, like this is the dream matchup for me.
You think? What do you think?
Um,
I think it's a good matchup for not just only for NWSL versus Liga MX, but also to bring fans to see
mhm,
women's soccer. I think when everyone sees Monterrey, Rayados or Rayadas, they will always come to watch
yeah.
them and see them. Hopefully, I think the main intent is for first to keep fitness to the players for both because one's
Hmm.
going preseason and one is going into I try to get fitness before the summer break ends. So it's a really good timing for them for having that. Hopefully, more friendlies can be announced. For I think I know other teams have 3 to 4. So we just got one right now. So hopefully we get more. But it's gonna be a good crowd. Could be competitive anytime. The Dash faces a Liga MX side. It's very competitive. Very. I think in the past has been more one side Liga MX, but I think last year with the Cup, I think Dash has dominated the Liga MX. So we never know.
And
We
and my question is, do you prefer this more individualized format when it comes to the summer break where every team kind of like curates their own tournaments or their own friendlies? Or do you prefer a league wide tournament where it's very similar to the League's Cup where it is just Liga MX and the NWSL? Like which one do you think gets the most out of this time off, would you say?
I see both advantages to both. I think I see both advantages. I think if your marketing team, your strategist team does their best, it'll be during this time. You want to get teams that appeal to your market, appeal to your area. So the Dash did really good job of trying to get a Mexican team, especially we're so close to Mexico to get that. It'll be a almost packed stadium, but I don't think it'll be packed because it's the women's team. But still, you know, you want to get that much exposure to that. But I do agree. I do rather see a cup, you know, cupish tournament. I don't care if it's Liga MX versus the NWSL again, or to see a women's Open Cup. I think I think
Okay, that's a different direction. I
yeah,
like that.
I know next year the USO as are expanding.
Hmm.
They're expanding even more. Even they have another league under that expanding as well. And of course, NWSL has their NWSL teams and plus the future NWSL academies teams. So the game is expanding. The game is expanding. So
Hmm.
so it'd be a matter of time before we see this women's Open Cup soon and be
Hmm.
integrated into the season. So, but I think the trouble with the NWSL has over MLS. A lot of players from the NWSL gets called for international games, for international
Yeah.
tournaments. So that's a big hurdle. That's a big hurdle. I think what will benefit the NWSL if we move to a fall to spring schedule. I think
Okay.
that will it because just because of the breaks, it will
Hmm.
be too much breaks if we don't go there because too many players are getting called up, too many players get released to international teams. So it's like it's ideal to do that way, but I think it's up to we'll see, but over time. But what do you think? What do you think will be the best?
I don't know. I think it depends on how the NWSL wants to treat itself as a league. The MLS focused heavily on internal growth for a long time, and I think they're now moving outwards and creating like an international appeal with the whole thing of Leagues Cup and the Club World Cup and
Mhm.
kind of drifting away from the Open Cup. The
Yeah,
NWSL currently has an opportunity to go outward when it comes to things like the Teal Rising Cup, which has teams from Mexico, from Brazil, or things like the Liga MX Cup, which last year we saw Mexico and the United States face off. But they can also focus on internal growth, like an Open Cup for the women's game, or those kinds of tournaments where we do see just U.S. play U.S. And I
mhm.
think which one would benefit the game the most here in the U.S. I would lean towards that individual U.S. growth because again we see Angel City play Tampa Bay.
It's no, it's sunset, sunset. Uh,
Says,
I think I'll think of the name. Give me a moment.
but
It's
but we see Angel City play against a USL team, and that has huge
Carolina
amount.
Crescent. Carolina Crescent.
Carolina Crescents. Okay. Um, the Carolina Crescents. So you see those kinds of matchups, and I don't know. It excites me to see different leagues and different teams in this country create a new opportunity for a market because why I don't understand why we would try to face a team from Mexico or Brazil or even Europe when we haven't even tried out playing against the team from Dallas.
Yeah,
I don't see the logic there too much, but I might there's something that might be missing through my head. I understand that if you're the dash marketing department and you get a call from FC Barcelona, you're not going to say, "Hey, I don't want to play you guys because Dallas is right next to the door, right next door." Like I understand that, but it's like to think a little realistically. To think realistically, I feel like which one's going to be easier to nail for a preseason friendly if the league is going to take that direction of no league wide tournament and we're going to let you guys do your own thing.
yeah, I get it. I get it, and something that they hopefully they address sooner or later because I think that'll be ideal and very smart to do. But I think it's just very very hard to know what they're gonna want to do and everything. But I agree with that. But we'll see. We'll see because the question is international breaks, and then
Yeah.
coming up with this break. The reason why the NWSL has a league break is because they have to accommodate for international breaks coming up. Mention it real quick. The international break coming up. We have USA having a next literally the following week three upcoming international games, and of course Yasmin Ryan and every passer got called up for the U.S.
Mhm.
Women's national team. So we'll be watching that. They have three games playing on. Give me a moment. I had it playing on the 26th, 29th, and July the 2nd. So July the 3rd. Sorry. And so it's pretty much like boom, 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 boom. A lot of games coming up for them, and plus reason why for that, because the women's Euros start in July as well. So Of course, a lot of European players, base players, play here in the NWSL. So, and the reason why, and of course, Barbara Oliveri got called up for the Venezuelan national team to play the women's Copa America as well.
Mhm.
That's going on as well during the women's Euros. So you see, like I think it's hard to know with all of this if the NWSL has to release a lot of their players to play in this competition. It's good. It's good eyeballs. It's good viewership to know like the NWSL is bringing a lot of players into these competitions. So it's a lot
Mhm.
of good service from them. So I think we should try and the NWSL need to accommodate more of these international tournaments because this gives a lot of eyeballs for the league and hopefully you know, with a lot of eyeballs, it also gives a lot of eyeballs to ownership, to GMs, to technical directors, to look scout for players in these
Mhm.
international tournaments, to bring in the league as well. So, of course, but players will like a league to accommodate international windows, to play for a national team. So you see,
Mhm.
it's like a lot of head scratching of, but of course, when it comes to schedule, it comes to everything. I think the NWCL will make that change before the MLS.
I
So
agree. I agree. I think they're also you mentioned it perfectly in that state of urgency where you see more players get called up from the NWSL than MLS, and so they do have that sense of urgency that like yeah, there's a realistic chance that a lot of Dash fans are going to be watching these games in person to try to see Avery Patterson play, to see Barbara Oliveri play. And when they're not there, is there a reason to go see the Dash?
mhm.
And when you look at their scheduling and it being away for so many months, so many matches, you're really encouraged as a league to move that into a more convenient time slot, which will
Yeah.
then open up an opportunity for a full summer tournament or whatnot. There's a lot more flexibility when you stop fighting with the other leagues for trying to like gain the one slot that's open when you
Mhm.
just work with them and that'll get you a lot more results because it's also insanely difficult to bring players into the NWSL after they just finished their season and they're like expected to play another season basically.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, it's trying to be the open market. It's trying to be, trying and they have done that with this new CBA about, consent before trades, consent before, players have to consent and negotiate their salary with clubs before they get traded. So they're trying to have the open European mindset. So I think it's very
Mhm.
encouraging on that. It shows that they're very soccer oriented of like what's going on in the world, and so hopefully they want to compete that as well. So it's really a
Mhm.
lot to know, a lot to see, and so hopefully the dash, hopefully in the NOC and the dash can benefit from everything. So
Mhm.
so we'll see about that. We'll see about next week how they do. Hopefully Avery doesn't get injured. I feel like every time she goes to USA,
I'm
she gets injured most of the time. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just a lot of games for her. I think it's a lot of games for her.
yeah, it's her second year in the league. I mean, she's already getting called up to the national team, and great for her. But she needs to be rested. She's human too. We're all
Yeah,
human. I think being the cornerstone of your team at your sophomore year and getting called up to the national team and starting, that's a lot. That's a lot.
yeah. So I think the previous window, she started the first game and came off the bench with 15 minutes to go for the last game.
Mhm.
So it shows that Emma A's really, really, really loves Avery and her work way. So
Mhm.
hopefully she comes back healthy to start in the international friendlies or just even the time off.
Mhm.
I won't be mad if during the international friendlies she has a time off. So we'll see
Mhm.
out there. But before we signed off, we got the last game before we head off for the summer break. It is
The Fabrice
the
Derby.
Fabrice Derby, the North Carolina Courage versus the Houston Dash on Saturday. at 6:30 p.m. local time at Wake Mid Soccer Park. Wake Mid. I always love saying that name, Wake Mid. So really interesting to see North Carolina Courage beating Angel FC their last game. I think it was a really surprise. I think Angel FC was primed to get the tie, but they decided to Carolina Courage at the last minute, the 5th minute at a time, won that
Mm-hmm.
game. Both are on top, on near to each other in the table.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina Courage is in 11th place, and Houston Dash is at 12th place. 4 points separate them on the table. And interesting, 4 points is what we need to get to the last playoff slot. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think we always say this every time we face a team near us in the table. It's a must win. It's a
It's a
must
must
win.
win. You
I think
have to win these games. I mean, you can't expect to make the playoffs and not get results in these games where, yes, you're going to be tested, but you are playing at your level. You're playing
yeah,
teams circling around that playoff line. And I think we say this every time. We sound like a broken record, but this is a must win game.
yeah. I think you want to avoid to categorize yourself of a Chicago Stars or Utah Royals. You
Mm-hmm.
want to avoid that,
100%.
but
100%.
you're trending towards that conversation. You're I've because these losses, 2 in a row
They're counting.
losses,
They're
they're
starting to go up.
yeah, starting to pile up and starting to, instead of us thinking Chicago Stars and Utah Royals are a bad team, little by little you're joining that conversation. You're joining that
Mhm.
conversation, and you're right now it's 5 points away from Chicago Stars and from Utah Royals. But if you don't get a win, and they get a win, they're much closer to overpassing you than you are on top of them. So
Exactly. And I think my biggest thing is we are going to look back at the end of the season at at these results. No matter how good we played, we're going to look and say, could have won that one, could have picked up that result. Performance, yes, gets you a moral victory and motivation for you to keep playing hard. 1, 2, 3 months down the road, when you're pushing for that last point in order to push you to the playoffs, you're not going to be thinking, wow, we played our hearts out against Orlando. We're going to be thinking, why the would we not get that point, or why would we not get three? I think this is exactly why these games need to be must win, because it's that conversation that we're going to be having in September and October, where we're going to be asking the question of, the playoffs are here, where's the dash?
yeah, exactly. And so at this point in the conversation, it looks like we're gonna miss it at this rate.
Mm-hmm.
Closer than when we'll lose it. So it's pretty hard to swallow that pill and make sure that everything comes back. But it's we still have quite a few more time before we hit there. But I think we'll see how it goes. But I want to see your predictions for North Carolina Courage uh, for this result. What you thinking? How you feel this game is going to turn out?
Just because we absolutely need to win this game, I'm saying we're winning 1-0, but I'm not optimistic about it.
Yeah, I would trend more the 1-0 for me as well. Reason why North Carolina Courage hasn't been great. North Carolina Courage, they did have the good results against Angel City, but if you think about their players and everything, they got a star player of Drayton Shaw, but hasn't really playing that much. And this season, she's been mostly off the bench, finding ways to plug her in the team. So it's like very strange how they went out for this player, and she's been very, very uh I think just very nonchalant in the team. So if you see like the last 2 games against Washington Spirit and Angel C, she only came out to roughly an average of 20 minutes per game.
Mm-hmm.
So she's found more effectiveness off the bench than starting. So it's really interesting about that. So Hopefully the Dash can. I think really attack this team. You know, there's not really a lot of players that very jump off the page. Of course you have Casey Murphy. He used to be part of the U.S. Goalkeeper squad, but now not anymore. Uh, and that's pretty much it that will scare you from this team. You know, other than Jay Shaw, of course you have Sullivan, who's been a veteran in the league. But it's pretty much a lot of really just names piled up and see how things work, you know. But it's really interesting how this team will shape up. But
Hmm.
I think it screams and on paper and on desperation a must win. But I think it's
Hmm.
just I like to say it comes about mentality. It comes about how this team will approach this game. So
Hmm.
hopefully we both right. 1-1 will be a good result. Hopefully it's a Maggie Graham goal so that her streak continues.
Hopefully.
Because at this
Hopefully.
point I don't know where the goals are coming from unless it's a banger from Barba or a solo goal from Yasmin Ryan. But we'll see how it goes.
Praying on it.
But so this is all for us for tonight's podcast. Hope you enjoyed us ranting a little bit here and there. But uh, we'd like to thank our sponsors of Ugly Guppy, Elotes Bravos, and our man, I blanked out. We got soccer. Damn it. It's been a long day. It's been a long
You're
ride.
good, man. You're
Yeah,
good.
it's a long run today, but always reach out for us at biocitysoccer.net and our Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube and Threads and Blue Sky. We're always there posting. Hopefully next week we can reflect on a good result. Maybe look over our our predictions since we're officially on the midpoint of the year. Reflect our predictions and see how right we're wrong. And hopefully, we can bring someone over, hopefully, a Theo Lloyd Hughes about it. And so, we'll, I
Foreshadowing.
know. So, we'll see how it goes.
Foreshadowing.
But it's going to be interesting. So, hopefully, it will be a good game.
Mhm.
A good time to reflect and see where the Dash are right now, how close we are, and hopefully in the next after the break and everything, and we can see how the team moves so forward. And hopefully by then we can have a full roster of our summer schedule if we have any
Mhm.
more friendlies or anything. But if not, we're just gonna look for the Rayadas game. But let's say everyone, thank you for everything. Thank you for coming up. Thank you for everyone in the comments for everything coming up, and we ask to hold it down and see you next week.
Hold it
Peace.
down, guys. I'll see y'all later.